Welcome to Turn It On. We've got a special guest, Ashley Semmens. I got that right.
Nailed it, mate.
A Navy clearance diver. Anzac Day, we're all at the game. When the last post and the anthem comes on, what happens for you when that happens?
Mate, it gets you every time. Every time it's a tearjerker. You, irrelevant of sort of where you are or the setting, it always makes you take that step back and have that moment. And generally, I get a bit of a well up and a bit of a tear, and then that moment of reflection. Yeah.
And you're with the bunnies during the week?
I was with the bunnies, spent a bit of time during the week with them, trying to give them a bit of a, I guess, background to what Anzac Day means to us as veterans, and then sort of impart a bit of that on the team.
Sorry.
What about your background? How did you get into the military? You're trying to be an Olympic swimmer?
Yeah, once upon a time,
Yeah.
and had a failed sort of Olympic trials in 2004. And at that point, being an 18-year-old boy, effectively, I needed to go and make my way in the world, and sort of fell into the Navy and fell into the job of my dreams.
Now, when you're training, there's obviously a scary part to what you're doing. And when did it kick in? And how did you overcome that?
Yeah, look, I've always had a bit of a fear of, my big thing is the man in the grey suit, the Sharks.
They're not the bombs.
Bombs are fine. They're
Well,
somewhat...
you picked the right job.
Yeah.
If you're scared of sharks.
Yeah, look, the bombs and the explosive threat, that's fairly predictable, but you look at the marine animals, they're less predictable, and they're often sort of hunting you. Yeah. So that was always a challenging one to overcome for me, but it's an occupational hazard.
Now, I just saw you on a photo and you've got the gun and you've got the gear. So what do you do outside of the water? Is there a role?
Yeah, so again, our primary role is to identify and neutralise explosives. So you look at diving, that's kind of the method of getting to work. So take the water out, and we can do that on land as well.
Just getting back to the bunnies, when you spoke to them, what was the message you gave the players?
Yeah, look, a lot of it was around those sort of Anzac spirit and courage and mateship. And for me, I really wanted to push on the players what their purpose is. I knew my purpose in the military, and that was to be there and look after my mates, and I knew that they would be there to do the same for me. So I sort of pushed the same message for the lads of who are they there for and what's their purpose for playing footy and to get the win.
Getting back to the Sharks, you were there when one of your comrades lost his arm
Yeah.
by a bull and a leg. Sorry.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so a bit of a surreal day for me. I wasn't in location when Paul got attacked. The dudes that were there saved his life, so I can't can't claim that. He's alive because of those guys, so full credit to them. But I did receive the boat when it came back to the base, and was sort of confronted with the aftermath of what a shark attack looks like. And without going into too much detail, it's fairly gory. So I did the job of cleaning out the aftermath.
What about the correlation from military to sport? We obviously see a lot of correlation from sport to business, but military to sport, obviously the results of life and death aren't in sport, but how do you draw that correlation? Yeah,
well, I think there's a lot of direct correlations, and even when you look at footy or business and war, like you're going into battle, and I don't like making those direct relations because a lot of them aren't really, it's not life and death. But you've really got to put it on the line and go all in. And I think that's, as you guys would know, sport, you have to go all in. You have to be fully committed to get the result.
It's the mentality rather than the
That's exactly right,
side of it.
yeah.
Now, you went down to Melbourne. Melbourne, Souths haven't beaten them in 20 years.
Yeah.
What about the opposition when you go to war? Like the Afghans, they've been incredible soldiers. What is it about them where people just, when they go to war with them, they struggle? Yeah,
look, they're hardened fighters. They've been there for hundreds of years fighting battles the whole time. And we obviously have a rule book that we need to play by as well, whereas their rule book's a little bit more grey. And they fight very simply, whereas we often, I think, overthink things. They're a very simple warrior, and they're very effective.
When you say that, the rule books, does it hurt when you come back to Australia and you are judged on those rule books where you, in the people who serve, play by the rules, but you're judged otherwise? How hard is that?
Yeah, look, it's really hard to watch, I guess, how people are judged when, I guess, the society doesn't necessarily understand how and what it looks like on the ground. And I've been in situations where I've very nearly engaged in operations where, I've been in a situation where I had the opportunity to shoot someone, and if I took that, it would have probably been a war crime. And for a sixth sense or a gut feeling or whatever, I didn't, and that was the right outcome.
Is that with a child?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And the situation played out that it looked like they were going to engage with the patrol that I was rear security of. The situation was evolving very quickly, and I had literally seconds to try and understand that situation, and I sort of pulled my lottery ticket that day by acting in a right way. So it's hard to judge people in those situations because you're making a decision with very little information.
What about the public's appreciation for servicemen and women? I think we do a great job on Anzac Day, but going to the States, you see it daily. You see people walk past servicemen and women and thank them for their service. They get to go on aircrafts early. Do you think as a nation we can do more in that manner?
Look, I think we can do more, but I'm also humbled on days like Anzac Day where people do come up and say thank you for your service. Yeah. And for me and for most service people, we don't do it for that recognition. We do it because we love our country or we love the mates that we're standing next to, and there's that patriotic sort of feeling. Can we improve? Yes, we can always improve. When you look at America and how passionate they are about their service people and their military, then I think we can take a little bit out of their book.
So what about yourself at the moment? You see a lot of people come back from war with a lot of head noise. How are you at the moment?
I had a lot of head noise and had a lot of dark times for a number of years. A lot of it I hid. I effectively diagnosed myself. It was quite obvious that I had PTSD and I hid a lot of those things for the best part of 10 to 15 years because I knew that would have an impact on my career and I still wanted to be able to give and to serve. Once I finally did put my hand up and went through the darkest times of depression and PTSD and walked into the medical centre and said, look, I need some help now. And that sort of saw me move out of the military. And now I'm probably the best I've been in probably ever. Like I love life now and I want to be here more than ever.
The other pain that you have is your back, and I believe you're swimming the English Channel. Is that right?
Yeah,
backwards.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
Talk us through that.
The back pain. I was blown up in Afghanistan, so that has some ongoing effects with my back. And because I've seen the outcome of what conflict and war looks like and how that results in things like mental health and physical health, so it's my way of sort of showing that you can improve, that a mental health diagnosis or a physical health diagnosis isn't a terminal illness, and that there can be improvements. So now I'm doing that to show that it is possible to come back and sort of come from the dark into the light.
Getting back to Afghanistan, you were involved with an IED explosion. Talk us through that.
Yeah, well, I was in the team, and the EOD team, so Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team, it was our job to clear the roads and places of IEDs. And that day we did a really good job. We did it really quickly. We just drove over it instead of doing it properly.
At the moment, the world seems it's pretty sensitive at the moment.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on what's going on? And also, for people that were looking for purpose, would you suggest going into the armed forces?
Yeah, good questions. Look, the way that sort of that geopolitical space is at the moment, if those drums of war were beating, then I would be the first person putting my hand up to go back and serve. That's in me, and it's what I'm good at that, and I would be there to do it, to serve, again, my mates and my country. For others, look, if I look at the lens of my young son, would I encourage him to go? I would say, look, go and do it, but I'm not going to push you through the door. Yeah.
And what about the birth of your child? You weren't there.
Yeah, I missed that too whilst I was in Afghanistan. Again, a challenge in life.
How does that affect you thinking about it now?
Look, I don't know what I don't know. I wasn't there as my first and only child. I was on the phone for his birth, so that's my story, and I don't know what I missed out on, so I'm happy with that. I've made peace with that. We're the best of friends, and I love that kid to death. But it was quite an adjustment period coming back after a high of Afghanistan and all the things that had happened, to then be given sort of a 2.5-month-old child and say this is yours and struggle with that paternal instinct because you're on still such a high.
Wow. And what about the date? Is there a significant date when you're swimming the channel, or is it finning?
Finning, yeah.
What's the date? What's significant?
So
about
between the 3rd and the 11th of June is my window, and then you've got D-Day landings in there. So ideally, if I can peg that date, that's a weather dependent and a few other things. So it's a bit out of my sphere of influence. But if we can get that day, then that'll be ideal.
What does your training look like at the moment to complete that?
So we're in the pool every day, finning, so on my back kicking away. It's been a very lonely sort of workup, running, swimming, cycling, all sort of individual things. So a bit lonely. I'm looking forward to it being done so I can get a bit of life back, but thoroughly enjoyable.
How's your head bumping into the wall? I'm assuming you're going backwards. Do you see the wall?
Yeah, well, I mean, same as you see the flags.
Flags.
And spend so much time in the pool that I know them pretty well these days.
How do people donate? How do they support you?
So jump onto the Navy Clearance Diving website.
Is that it there?
Might be on the screen. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Jump on there and people can donate there. That'd be much appreciated.
You used to play footy, yeah?
Played a little bit of footy. Yeah, played for the Navy team a few games in there, but I was away so much. A lot of touch footy on Fridays. The boys will all get together and we'll have a game on Fridays and tell each other how good we are.
What position?
Oh, mate, mostly the bench, to be honest. They'd put me in forward, and I grew up in Adelaide, so I'd also receive some kicks and take them overhead, being AFL.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way with that. So picked up a few injuries, a few rib shots from that, and again, just being away so much.
If I ask you leadership, what is it to you? What's leadership?
Geez, on the spot. But for me, leading from the front, being the person that if you can't do it, then why expect others to do it? Treat people the way that you expect to be treated. And for me, like if you can, then you should. Therefore, I can swim, I can do the channel, I can do all these roles. So therefore, the people that follow me should be able to do the same. So lead by example.
Thanks for coming in. That was sensational. And I understand you're going to stick around and do the pass off.
Yeah. See if I can flick a few balls.
Well, last week, our PM, Anthony Albanese, he killed it. So.
Oh, pressure's on.
Pressure's on. And no handballing.
Yeah,
You're gonna
that's
throw
it.
lead in.